Suits me fine, so I'm easily distracted. So I'll clear any questions.
So, Mike, I love the fact that your nickname is Kodac. Do you want to tell everybody why?
Well, it's short and sweet. I can't pronounce my surname properly. I don't. Well, my dad's a Greek. He says Photio. I've always pronounced it Photio because of my southern accent. It sounds like photo. So by the time I landed in Northern Ireland, my first posting after basic training in the engineers, my nickname was Kodac, and that's the one that stuck.
I love it. So this, Mike, I'm going to call it your Kodac moment. And, you know, what I'll do is after we've done it, because we've had so much turmoil trying to get on the bloody thing, I will edit the title and everything afterwards. So, but I just want to say a massive thank you, because I know some of your story, and I think it's a really valid sort of thing that you've gone through in your life, and I think it's very much worth a decent share. So take us as far back as you can remember, and the topic this week is low self-esteem, but go for it, Mike.
Well, yeah, so hi everyone. Yeah, so low self-esteem, I mean, let's be honest, our low self-esteem's got to start somewhere, because technically when we're born, it's a fear, isn't it? Low self-esteem, it's anxiety and things like that, and the only two fears we're born with are the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises, and therefore everything else we learn. As well as that, kids seem to be able to live in the moment, which we struggle with, which again we like to project, and that causes anxiety. I've already gone off on a tangent, and I will continue to do so. So I will. I'm a sprinkle of ADHD as well. So yeah, my life. I'm 42 years young. I've just started my life over as a sober alcoholic. That's my sobriety.
Yes.
23rd of June 2020. I finally started my new life, or the learning the tools to start my new life. I come from an interesting background. I always I grew up looking back at my background, not really any remorse, no feeling sorry for myself. Kind of look at the positives. I kind of used to get the heavy-handed dad. He wasn't available emotionally. Him and my mum got divorced when I was about 5 or 6. My mum was an alcoholic, so loved me the best she could, but obviously, she was an alcoholic. She was pissed most of the time. So with that, you know, there's only, you know, she's done the best with the tool she had. I now realise after my treatment, she was ill. I had a big brother. I thought we just had sibling rivalry, but it turns out getting the shit beaten out of you every single day, even when you go to the same secondary school, or even before that, him and his mates would come back and batter me, do things like strip me naked and leave me tied to the radiator until my mum got home. And I'll get some proper beatings. I won't go into the whole story of everything, but on one of the final beatings, at secondary school, I kind of went there because I wanted to be in his gang.
Yeah.
So as you do, for some reason, then every day for the best part of the first year, they would convince me to go out to school fields and just batter me. And then one day they said, if you beat that bloke up, we'll leave you alone. So I did, and it was quite bad. And I suddenly realised I could fight. We had, because of the kind of mentality I grew up with, was my brother got bullied when he was 5. So at the age of 3, we had a boxing coach in. He paid for them. And Mr. Hall, his name was, to come round. So I started to learn to fight early. And then my brother conditioned me. And this was the kind of attitude I had. I bounced from my mum's to my dad's. My dad was a full-on alcoholic with his restaurant. So was my stepmum. And then they split up. There's a pattern here. They split up. So off my stepmum went. And then I got sick of living with my dad, so I went back to my mum's. All the fights started again, but I could handle myself a bit better now. So my brother would take all my stuff, steal my stuff, and sell it. I was on the phone. I was about 12 at this, 12, 13. I was on the phone every day in tears to my stepmum. So we agreed one day. We went down to social services. That day I went into foster care and was meant to stay there until she got the okay to have me. So anyway, that was when I was 13. At 16, on my birthday, went down there, and she hadn't answered the door for weeks. And then her daughter, my stepsister, came down, and apparently things have been going missing. Jewelry had been going missing the past few times I was round there. And rather than have a discussion about it and find out what's happened, because it looks like I found out my friend recently who just got back in touch. He was robbing it, so I found out 2 years late. Yeah, but anyway, because it actually disowned me and left me in the foster system. In the foster system, I was treated differently to my foster sisters and everything else. I knew from the age of 13, joining cadets, I was joining the army, and I was also in cadets. And although I was complete cockwomble at school, I was a class clown. I was basically a complete nightmare to teachers. Very disruptive and everything else. Very intelligent, but didn't utilise that. I used that to make teachers look stupid instead. So I can kind of understand in hindsight why they got the ump with me. Now I'm one of those supposed grown-ups. Then what else then? Yeah, so anyway, so I knew I was going to join the army. Nobody, all the teachers forever telling me I'm never going to achieve anything. You'll see why all this is relevant. I'm never going to achieve anything. I won't succeed in the army. Only one teacher that was at the cadet supported me with the fact that she knew I'd do all right in the army. I remember being dressed in my number twos, like your smart army uniform in cadets. I think it was a staff sergeant. And on the way out, my foster mum told me how I didn't deserve that rank and all this stuff. So I didn't really have any support there either. So I kind of come from a background of an interesting one, but I don't feel sorry for myself, nothing like that. I never really thought anything of it. I thought it's water for ducks back. Anyway, so from a cognitive learning level, obviously I learned that drinking was the way. At 11 years old, I got drunk for the first time with my brother and his mates, necked a few cans of beer. They kind of made me do it. I then kind of ran around all night trying to get naked and shag lampposts. And it was a freezing cold winter's day. And Carmel got my brother because he was looking after me. We got home, and that was back in the day. We had the red and black bad boy baggy jeans with the buttons, and he couldn't undo them, so he weed himself, which is good. Anyway, that's kind of when I first discovered alcohol. And then I drank ever since. By the time, by the time I was 13, I had stolen, collected passports from school. Which we used to go and drink in pubs, get alcohol anywhere. No one really cared about IDs back then. So we was always getting pissed at weekends, sometimes in the week. By the time I went into foster care, they let me do my own thing. I was always out on weekends getting drunk. And it was just a norm. And I thought nothing of it.
Sorry to stop you there, Mike, but what do you feel about that now?
Well, it's interesting because I ended up going to a trauma-informed rehabilitation. And I didn't understand why I was trauma-informed. But I'd hit such a rock bottom that luckily I wasn't homeless because I'm a veteran, so I had a bit of help there financially for B&Bs. I had a very good mate let me crash around his in the week, and I was at B&Bs at the weekend. And I found it kind of weeks into it, I kind of told my story a lot more in depth than what I just told there. And kind of staff and peers alike kind of stood there like gobsmacked, open mouthed, when I went into detail about my childhood. And I was like, Mike, that ain't right, mate. And then that's when I realised kind of and started to get a bit of acceptance that maybe I didn't have a normal upbringing and everything else. And I also learned I had no self-compassion because I would refer back to, I weren't a nice kid to animals. I used to hit and spit my mum and all this as a kid, but I didn't have I realised I never had a safe place or a safe person. So I didn't know, and I was ADHD then, or hyperactivity disorder back then. So I didn't know what my emotions were, didn't know how to deal with them, didn't know how to express them. But I look back and I used to call myself a horrible little C word. And I repeatedly say that I've messed up my life. And then I realised that's not compassionate. I blame myself for everything. Even as a kid, I hated little Mikey. So I had to learn about a little bit of inner child work and make that connection through meditation, weirdly enough, and then become my own protector, really. And I at least once a week go and visit little Mikey in my little happy place with my meditation. But yeah, that's not what the topic's about.
No, so, that's very relevant though, Mike, because
absolutely.
I think we'll definitely hit on that.
Well, it's completely relevant because of there's a few angles to this, and one of the first ones that jumps out to me is when you're told at such a susceptible age that you're not going to achieve anything, when you've heard it enough, your subconscious mind, your survival mechanism, believes that's the right way to do. So it doesn't mean to screw you over. It's there to do what's right, to keep you alive and what you're meant to do. So basically my brain got trained to think I shouldn't succeed. So what's happened as I've grown up, every time I've gone to succeed, there's no coincidence here, but when I was pissed, I would go and mess everything up. And I would just, I joined the army. When I left for injuries, I probably would have got kicked out anyway. It's the reality of it. I had a charge sheet as long as your arm. And now I've got a civilian charge sheet as long as my arm as well, because it's just those nights out. Every time I'm doing well on something, I would hit that point of blackout. I don't remember a thing. And that's when a very dark side of me come out. All that suppressed stuff comes out. Because the reality is every trauma we've gone through, and everyone's gone through a trauma to a point in their lives. And everything you've gone through sits in there, and it's all in there. I think it's something ridiculous as well, like your eyeballs and that, they all process like 2 million gigabytes a second. It's all in there, and it's more powerful than the most powerful computer on earth. And all these things stay there. So when you hear you're not going to achieve anything, when you hear you're a waste of time, when you hear just all those negative things, you end up believing it. If not at a conscious level, certainly a subconscious level. And this is what screws you up later on in life and creates the insecurities. I remember being a very anxious child. I used to stutter my words. When I was really young, I mean, I'm really having to consciously I talk slow now because I still talk bloody fast. But I had to go speech therapist and all sorts. So I had a stutter and everything else. And what always run through in my mind is, if you want to be confident, act confident. And then that's when I actually ended up putting on a front and sort of acting confident. And I've kind of had a front on me ever since. I lost a bit of that in the army because after basic training, because very few times in my life I felt part of some things as well, completely mind. So after basic training, I was the only one out my whole squadron or my whole troop of trainees to get posted to Northern Ireland. And because I'm a gobshite, I didn't go down well there, like a little sprog as I was, going there, gobbling off. I had a rough ride and I was bullied out there. Luckily, it wasn't the longest posting, and I got posted out again sort of 4 or 5 months later.
How long were you posted out there, if you don't mind?
Pardon?
How long were you posted out there?
I did just sort of 6 months, I think it was in the end, and that was back in 1990.
Still a long time, isn't it?
It's long enough when shit's hitting the fan like that, yeah. She had enough of a job to worry about. But that's life. I kind of brought a bit on myself because I was a gobshite. Because when I was asked in the squadron bar, are you a gobshite? I said, yeah, and I played up to that. Because I'm used to being the gobshite and, you know, people pleasing and getting people to like me by making fools of other people. That's the fun I grew. I would deflect with humour. And that's kind of been my tool all my life. Yeah, and then obviously joined the army, left the army, and then I had more and more anger. What I managed to learn to do is, from a young age, is anger was my best umbrella, because when you're angry, I don't feel any other emotion. Afterwards, obviously, plenty of remorse and guilt and everything else. But whilst it's all happening, anger, you don't feel it. Anger, I could win situations. And then I've learned in treatment that I was using my anger and my fear to try and control and manipulate all the people in the situation around me, essentially to keep me safe. And then after delving deeper in, I had to go to some really dark places. I lost my mum at 17, and she was an alcoholic, and we was actually really close by the time she died. And obviously I learned a lot more about alcoholism and that then. And in treatment, I finally said goodbye to her after 25 years where I never mourned properly. And I wrote a goodbye letter along with a big apology letter as well, and tried to get a bit of closure on that. And it's kind of worked, because normally I'll be in tears explaining that. So yeah, where am I going? I've kind of gone off on a tangent here. So feel free to rein me back in, Amy, and bring me back on track.
No, we were literally talking about your experiences and being bullied and things like that from in the army. But you know, I think it's fairly powerful that you've been able to just mention that you've written to your mum and get some closure on that. That's really important, because that's a driving force, isn't it, to moving you forward with your life?
Well, a lot of it is, I mean, we get stuck in the past when we realise it or not. I mean, every trauma, every bad thing that's happened is in there. And if you don't know how to express it, be it through emotions and get it outwards, it's all trapped inside you. And it's going to come out in one way or another, be it a physical pain or an illness or behaviour. And then with all of that, obviously, because the knock-on effect of that was I hated myself without realising. Certainly towards the end, I lost all respect before I went off to treatment. And I just wanted to be dead. I tried killing myself, didn't work. So yeah, and it just, everything just completely links in, and obviously bringing it back to the subject insecurity, it completely links in, because obviously, although I might come across bullshit, in fact, let me tell you a slight side story. So when I was in treatment, there was a lad called Phil, and I become really good friends with him, and we used to have loads of little chats. You know, I was a good few weeks in by then, and I'd help anybody out I could. And it turned out we had similar lives and we had the same fears. The difference is he went introvert in life and I went extrovert in life. Yeah, exactly the same fears, and we've gone completely opposite paths. So it's sort of weird how that happens. And obviously the word insecurity, the only thing I've written down, because I don't do preparation, is obviously the word insecurity is uncertainty or anxiety about oneself, lack of confidence, which is fear. And what is fear? Fear is because everything relates back to fear, I think, and self-compassion. And fear, what is fear? If you break down fear is actually thinking I can't handle something, and that's what it is. And the reality is that there's different fears, but we need fear, because anytime you grow and come out of comfort zone to grow, you're going to have fear. And it's kind of the lessons I learned there to sort of control that. Well, not even, you can't really control it, but it's acceptance of it. And then what normally happens with the fear is you start getting all this, the inner voice. So if you imagine, let's start, you start dating someone and you think, well, I'm gonna drop her a message. But no, do you know what? I might look desperate. Oh
Yeah.
God, what she thinks I'm not interested. What if she thinks I'm with someone? Oh God, is she with someone? And you just come up with this whole bullshit story.
Just overthinking, aren't you?
Yeah, and like 95% of whatever this crap is in your head, it's never going to come true. So the two biggest lessons there I learned in treatment were the self-compassion, because with this comes your confidence, and obviously overriding that inner voice. Because the other meaning of fear is a state of being open to danger or threat, or a lack of protection. So unlike your traditional, the gates open, you might get attacked. I think this is where boundaries come into it as well. And between personal boundaries and not self-confidence, that comes as a secondary without a shadow. Between having good, I kind of lost track here. Yeah, between having a self-compassion, about having a self-compassion and learning to love yourself and talk kindly inside yourself, that naturally does something to you. Physically, it does. And then by having the boundaries and learning how to sort of talk, so that's another thing. We struggle how to talk. We have someone's upsetting you. We've got a horrible habit of letting the anxiety build up that we're gonna talk to this person about it, and by the time it comes out, you're a fucking dick, you upset me. When there's a better way of explaining that. Look, when you do that, it makes me feel like this, and play on their humility. And these all are kind, and I don't know if I'm just waffling now, but these are all the kind of things I've learned and I've linked together in treatment, which has kind of changed my life. And I'm no professional. All I can ever do here, or in I'm doing a 12-step program, and other little things like that. All I can ever do is give my opinions and my views on things, and hope it hits home. So I'm no professional, but these are the lessons I've learned.
Yeah.
And if I can just say anything and just help one person listening, that's good for me.
So how long were you an alcoholic for?
When I look back, I've always been an alcoholic or an addict, whichever way you want to look at it. Whenever I've done anything, be it drugs or alcohol, I do it to the extreme. When I look back, I've only ever drunk to get drunk. I've only ever drunk alcohol to get drunk.
Yeah.
I trained myself quite young, 18, 19. I trained myself to stop being sick. And I would drink, and I would drink, and I would drink, and I would drink. And I thought I was some massive hero, some party animal, last man standing. But actually, in hindsight, I've always been an alcoholic, and I always will be. The difference is I intend to be a sober alcoholic the rest of my life. And it's something like 1 in 10 people have got this. And a lot of people don't understand alcoholism or addiction. And it is, powerless over alcohol. Sort of one drink's too many and 1,000's not enough. I can never drink again, and that's the reality of it, because of that's when my life becomes unmanageable. That's when I start making really bad decisions. And that's also how I kind of cope with all my anxieties and cope with my fears and cope with burying my emotions. So what I also again then happened through treatment is I run around bursting out in tears for no reason, because of all these suppressed feelings and emotions are all coming up. They've just been buried for years. But I mean, everyone's got their ways of dealing with things, and not everyone who's got trauma or everyone who's got mental health issues is going to become an alcoholic or an addict, but there's a blessed few of us that do. And I always say I'm a grateful alcoholic as well. Some people disagree, but I'm grateful because it's given me an opportunity to start again. Most people in treatment have got all their families, they've got kids, they've got all this. I haven't got none of that rubbish. I've got minimal family to worry about, and that's it. So I managed to move up north with a complete blank canvas to start again. So I'm pretty blessed like that. That's why I'm grateful. That's why I'm grateful I'm an alcoholic, really. So
that's an amazing way of being able to look at it. It really truly is. And I always believe that if we can look at something from another view and and divulge into it and explain it, people might then start to go, well, actually I never looked at it like that.
You know what, you just hit it nail on the head there, because a lot of it, the actual key focus on everything and what kind of manifests the world around you, if you like, is your attitude. I used to train professional door canvassers. Somebody that went out of a bad attitude got massively verbally abused on the doors, knocking people's doors. Those are the great attitude, like myself, would smash targets and be done by lunchtime earning a fortune. And that's the reality of it. I mean, and our attitudes and the way we look at things. I mean, I read a great book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, and it explains it well in there. And the reality is, So my brain does this, has little brain farts.
Okay.
I forget what I'm saying. Remind me what I was banging on about.
About being diplomatic in your approach and looking at it from another side.
Yeah, so looking at it a different way. So when it went to, I mean, let's say you come to a crossroads, right? Do I take that job or do I take that job, or whatever it may be? And it's having the attitude of neither can be a wrong decision. One might be a slightly rougher ride, and one I might learn, but that slightly rougher ride, you could very well learn more lessons. And it's that kind of mentality, or making a mistake. Yeah, we all make mistakes, but there's an age-old saying I like to live by: if we're not making mistakes, we're not trying anything new. We're humans, and that's how we learn. And you can either look at a mistake and mistake, or look at it as you found one way not to do it the right way, and as a learning opportunity. And this is where the attitude comes into play. And attitude is massive on this. And again, by having that change of attitude, again, it links back to insecurity, which links back to anxiety. If we can change our mindset just on how we look at everything in life, I mean, it's going to stop anxiety. So we can change this into there's no wrong decision to make straight away. That's going to remove anxiety. And I'm not saying I can do it perfectly. I certainly bloody can't. I'm a work in process. It's not something you can do overnight. It's a habit of becoming very conscious of your thoughts. I mean, one little bit of homework I'll give everybody here actually on that is, because what I noticed is when you muck up, you call yourself an idiot. And we kind of talk.
Do you know what, Mike? A little bit like me over this Zoom and this. I've just been like, I'm stupid. I'm thick. I shouldn't do this. And,
but Amy and anyone else looking at this video, just look at yourself in the next 24 hours. When you make a mistake, and I imagine you will, because we're only human. We all shit and bleed. When you make a mistake, catch how many times you call yourself, "Oh, you fucking idiot," or whatever else. Something you're under your breath, but your brain hears that, and it's kind of, imagine if that was a little child. Would you do that to a little child? So a little child's doing something and they muck up. Do you turn around and go, "You fucking idiot"? You wouldn't do that, would you?
No.
And kind of remember to talk to yourself like a little child a little bit, and not out loud, because you might look like a bit of a section in the middle of the town centre. But
thanks.
Yeah. See, I'm not the king of, because my ADHD, I'm the king of just blurting out inappropriate shit in the middle of things, and I could give myself a rough ride on that. But also, a lot of the time I mean good intent, so if it doesn't come out right, I just try and talk to myself and like, do you know what, mate, you meant that a good intent. Everyone's going to forget about this in about 3 minutes, and just try and talk to yourself nicely rather than give yourself a rough ride. Because again, that has got to be directly linked. It has to be to insecurities, because if you're giving yourself shit and you're not on your own side, who else is on your side? There's a great, I think I posted it on the group, that the man in the glass.
Child on a skateboard.
No, it wasn't that. That one's good as well.
That
no, but I think it was the did I post it? The man in the glass. I don't know off the top of my head, so I'm not about to burst into song or poem. But it's all about, essentially, when you look at yourself in the mirror, that's the only person in this world you need to impress, because when all else fails, you're the one you've got to live with, and this is where I keep saying it, even if it doesn't quite sink in what I'm saying. Self-compassion is massive to this, to do with insecurity, and it just is, because just having self-confidence, I mean, what is self-confidence really? Let's break that one down. And now I am winging it, because I don't really know. I think that comes into it. If you're not thinking, if you don't think nicely about yourself, that's going to affect your self-confidence, because automatically, if you're not liking yourself, you're automatically going to think the way our brains work in that little inner voice, that other people don't like you. I think that's a fair statement.
Do you know what? That's a really good thing, because going into like low self-esteem and insecurity is one of the massive barriers for me. Was when I was training in control and restraint training, we basically, as officers, go on officers, and then like the officers that have been working there for a long time, and they bring out the big built like brick shit houses, and what they do is they throw you into a position where you may never have to fight the way that you're doing in training, but they're preparing it for you.
Absolutely. Train hard, fight easy.
Oh yeah, there was 3 of us, and I literally got this guy to the ground, and I was trying to put him into another lock, and I got dragged, and I couldn't. I looked at one of my very good friends, and I could see her lips moving, but I couldn't hear what was going on. And essentially, I'd forgotten to breathe, and I got
we did that
to the side, and tears just came down my face, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I'd stopped breathing, and all I remember was just this motion of these officers that had grabbed me, threw me, knees up to my chest, and said, "Breathe, Amy, breathe, it's okay." And that was it. I just burst. But after that, my ability to believe that I could control and restrain a situation was shot to pieces, and I thought, I'm not safe to be an officer. I loved the job because I gave a lot of compassion and fairness, and you know, I tried to spend a lot of time with people, but the fear of this is going to go off like a bottle of pop and I'm not going to be able to stop this or prevent anybody from being hurt, well, I can't do it.
Do you know what? You could have pushed. No, not you could have or should have, anything like that. But I mean, this is kind of why, same as the army. This is why you do things. It's repetitive training, and this is when you hear someone in the army or fire brigade or whatever, like, what happened? How did you do it? And it's kind of, this is where the repetitive training comes in. And then in a real life situation, that's when the training takes over. And that's why it is train hard, fight easy. Hopefully you won't ever come across a situation as hard as what you're doing there. Yeah. But again, it's a repetition. And then that comes back to kind of what we're talking about. Again, it's that repetition of what you hear yourself saying when you're slagging yourself off. It's that repetition of being told you're not going to achieve anything. It's that repetition of being told you're stupid, being told you're thick, all this stuff. You end up fucking believing it, even at not a conscious, at a subconscious level. And it directly impacts you. And then this kind of, so my brain's doing that thing again. And then it reminds me of the thing I read. If you imagine, kind of parents in England don't really say the right thing to kids because we kind of leave them in fear. I say we, I haven't got any. When they're about to go out to school or about to go out and play with their mates, what's the last thing we say to them?
Love you, be safe.
Yeah, be safe or be careful.
Yeah.
Be careful of what? What is that doing at a subconscious level? Go out and, you know, go wild, go and take some risks.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Although I don't know, it probably doesn't have any massive impact, but if you kind of think about it, it's the kind of, because parents have got a habit of doing this, and every parent's probably screwed us up to a point without realizing, because certainly if someone who cares for you doesn't believe they can achieve something, they try and stop you going to achieve it, and that's end up holding people back in life as well. Because of it, and it's that fear thing. When it boils down to, they can't handle the thought of you getting hurt, and then we have that fear thing, and all that fear is we don't think we can handle something. And then I don't know why my brain's gone right off on one now, and then this brings down to, because I'm a firm believer, I've read some weird and wonderful stuff trying to mend myself over the years. If you imagine, it's the age-old saying, you can't, if you try and teach a fish to climb water, it looks stupid. And there's about 4 different ways to train people. Everyone learns a different way. But just because someone say is good at English and they're at that level naturally, and someone else is down there, that person can get to that level. It just means they got a shitload more work to do, kind of thing. And again, like I say, there's about 4 different main personalities. Everyone's got different ways of learning, which is how I try and train people when I was in marketing and stuff. Find out how they want to learn. I'm a bit of a show me and I'll go and do it. Some people like that. And you go that way, and taking all these things into account, because schools don't really do us any favors. Schools don't really teach us about any spirituality or about goal setting or anything actually important in life. When you think about schools, qualifications are only valuable for 18 months, and then they're redundant because someone else come in. I think they could certainly be teaching us a lot more in school to set us up a bit better and make us a bit tougher mentally and emotionally. I mean, I'd like to think at school now, because obviously mental health awareness is becoming bigger and bigger. And obviously certainly what I've learned, been ex-40s, stubborn as shit, you know, I don't need emotions here or whatever, but actually I've learned I've done myself no favors. And the irony is, I didn't want to become vulnerable. Instead, I'll try and control everything around me. But the key to actually courage and being brave is becoming vulnerable.
So that just makes me want to touch on a point. One of the big things that I've faced, I've normally worked predominantly with men. I was a female prison officer in a male prison. I worked in male recovery predominantly. And one of the things I know I have faced a lot is I look weak as a man, because I'm now trying to get in touch with my emotional side and in tune with myself. What do you say to that, Mike, to knock that stigma off?
It's kind of this is how it's inbred in society. It's always been inbred, you know, going back certainly my generation, women in the kitchen. You know, there was still the mentality of women in the kitchen, men going on the thing, and we're now in a sort of equal opportunities world now. But again, it's just so important, because there's so many knock-on effects for not being able to expose your emotions and suppressing them. There's just so many knock-on effects, because they have to come out somewhere. And that might come out with some violent act when you're pissed. It might come out with just a sudden verbal abuse. And this is how you end up in some dodgy ass relationships, you know. where the women end up scared of the men, and this goes both ways as well. Or this goes into domestic abuse, where men are actually in domestic abuse, and again they're scared to pipe up. It's nonsense now. It's absolutely now. I mean, this is just my view. I shouldn't really say anything's nonsense, but in my opinion, it's, for me, it takes more courage to become vulnerable and reach out than it does not. Because of, again, we're scared of reaching out to people that are going to judge us, and that's our fucking egos, and our egos are a raw pain in the arse. And again, it's that inner voice that isn't our friend. It's just not. It's just not. Our brains are kind of that inner voice is a dick. It is though, isn't it? I mean, look at the amount of anxiety it causes us. And again, just that simple, and it is a simple thing. I need help. It took me so many years to actually reach out and get the proper help. And I had to hit rock bottom. The only way lower than that was 6 foot under, and I tried. And now I just try and intercept anybody, I can get on a level with or have a chat with. There's absolutely nothing wrong with asking for help. There's not, I mean, everyone is unique. Everyone's got the right on this earth to be happy. And you can't be happy if you're struggling. No one deserves to struggle. Do you know what I mean? And with that, some people might have a bit of self-hate and a bit of lack of self-compassion, because we've all got a past, and mine isn't perfect. So we've all got a past.
An example of living by it, isn't it?
Yeah, but what I'm getting at this is, because no one's got a perfect past, no one, and don't let your past hold you back thinking I do not deserve something, because you fucking do. Your past does not define your future. And I kind of like the little saying, every second of every day is the start of the rest of your life. And it's true. Everything happened today can stand today, and it's done. Nothing you can do about it. So yeah, we've done some bad shit in the past, and we can piss and moan about it, and that can be our reason to get pissed or be grumpy or act like idiots or whatever. We can all do that. All kind of master the art of, do you know what, that's done. What can I learn from this to become a better person? I've made serious mistakes in my life. I've been an arsehole. Not completely, but in certain times. And I'm going for a 12-step program where at some point I'm going to be facing these people and trying to make amends with nothing in return, because I still, and I'm trying to work on my ego, because we've all got one. And I've still got a lot of work to do. I'm still really at the start of my recovery journey. And now it's time, all the stuff I've preached people and turned into a walking self-help book, I'm now having to actively do for myself. And this is why I'm so wanted for you to invite me to talk here, because I do waffle on a bit. I'm no professional, but it helps me when I get to talk about the stuff that's inside my mind. It also helps me, and because I can hear myself, my brain can hear me, and it reaffirms things to me, and it brings up things that I've let settle, and it brings it back to my forefront of my mind, which I'm going to remind you, a bit of homework that listen to how you talk to yourself when you muck up. I want to come back to that a couple of times. That's a powerful bit of homework. Sorry, you were saying something. I've gone off on a tangent again.
No, don't worry. I was going to say we've got 5 minutes left. It's got an hour has gone like that. It's been incredible. Don't worry. I'm going to get you on again.
To be fair, it's been half hour, because we spent half hour trying to get.
I thought we started at 6:30.
No.
I think we started at 6:30. Let's have a look. If we've not.
No, it's later than that.
Let's have a look. No, keep going. Yeah, I stand corrected.
God.
Yeah, right. Keep going.
That set me up, innit? Yeah, I mean, what else you want? I mean, have you got any questions or anything?
I think what brought you to the realization that you needed to change in life?
Well, simply because of I was living an insane life, and by insane, I was living the word insanity, and insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, and actually expecting something different to happen. I can't really remember being actually happy in life. I just left the army, just getting drunk, getting arrested, have a relationship, destroy that relationship, destroy everything around me, move on, and just spend my life running. And in hindsight, I realised I probably spent my life in fear without realising. And I kind of, what was the question?
What brought you to the reality of that you really did need
so this is, yeah, so what brought me to reality, it was basically after I hit rock bottom. And I had a criminal justice recovery worker, like alcohol nursing person. She said that we talked about detox because I was physically dependent on alcohol. I could have died if I just stopped.
Yeah.
And she brushed over rehabilitation, and I was like, come on, let's go back to that, because I'm just sick of everything. I'm sick of, I need to change. And I accepted the fact that I need to change me. I'm the fucking problem. I'm the denominating factor in my life. It's me. and my behaviours. And this is what it boiled down to. So in rehabilitation, I've realised, you know, when you're living with 15 people, you don't get on with everybody, you know. And that would pull out some very dark parts of me. I actually got myself kicked out, and luckily they let me back in, and that gave me a reality check that I'm screwed out there, because the way I'm acting, I'm screwed. And then that was a realization that if I want a different life, if I want a happy life, I'm the one that's got to change. I've got no control in this world. The only thing I've got control of is me, and basically how I look at life and my attitude, and that's all I've got control of. So I've kind of managed to now, you know, I'm still a work in progress, but I just try and remember to be grateful for things rather than look and piss and moan about everything. And I try and remember to be kind to myself. And you know, I try and have a little bit of faith. I'm not religious, I'm a little bit spiritual. I believe everything happens for a reason, but have a little bit of faith rather than trying to plan every step for the next month. Do you know what I mean? Why do that? As long as you've got the money coming in, you need coming in. As long as you kind of got things set up, you don't need. We spend so much of our time, I certainly did, kind of looking for the next financial fix or that fix or that and that and wanting this and wanting that. So I kind of didn't stop once to smell the roses. And that's another good book, actually. I need to read it again. Practicing the Power Now, and just trying to remember sometimes, just fucking stop. Just fucking stop. So,
You know what? It's a really good point, Matt. Do you think COVID's helped people to stop?
It's gone two ways. Some people have now jumped on the addict and alcohol wagon because they got trapped inside their own head, which is, you know, the worst place for anyone with mental health. Anyone full stop, mental health or not, it's given people mental health issues. And it's gone down the other way. I've got a really good friend of mine that's gone down the spiritual route. Actually, she's gone into self-improvement, and that's the other angle people have gone down. It's given them time to really look at things and really sort things out. I don't think there is a middle ground. No. So yeah, that's the kind of two angles it's gone. Some people have really gone and started sorting their shit out. Others have gone to shit mentally. Yeah, that's kind of what's happened with this, you know, COVID thing. But I'm not going to get political.
No. I said in the live as we were trying to set this up was I believe that you just touched upon it, that for me, materialistic items don't mean anything to me anymore. You know, I think it's about the people around me and what's important to me.
Do you know, massively, there's so many famous people, your Jim Carreys, your Robin Williams, all these people, you would think they were happy. Certainly comedians, because they put on such a good front, which is a great form of deflection. I'm pretty fucking good at that, I found out. But they're miserable. You know, you can have all the physical things in the world, but one of humans' natural needs aren't to go and drive in a Ferrari and live in a mansion. It's to have companionship, be it friends or, you know, your lover. And these are these are human needs. And, you know, kind of, we need to meet things at every level, on a fitness level, on a mental level, on a relationship level. And we kind of got to tick all these boxes, not just half a tick in that one and not bother with that one there. And as I've had another brain fart there. Sorry.
That's all right. No, it was a really, really good TED talk that I will find and put on Reach to Speak Out. It taught me a lot. When I was a recovery worker and working in housing, I know that there were people that weren't ready to accept that they had issues with addiction and they just needed a place of safety. And to me, that's perfectly fine, because if they're not there, they're not there. You can't force somebody. But unfortunately, it was like in the contract that you needed to get into recovery to be a part of the housing project.
Yeah.
And maybe I shouldn't, but I will admit, maybe I did turn a blind eye a little bit, as long as it wasn't done in front of me.
Yeah.
If that was to keep somebody and put a roof over their head and give them opportunity to change, then who am I to try and play God with somebody's life?
I agree with that. I take a slightly harsher stance. Everything we do in life, we've got a choice.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm an alcoholic, and I've got a choice. I'm at the moment halfway out, as they call it. I'm looking to move out because I'm a bit too recovered for this place, I feel. And I've got a choice. I've got a choice if I have a drink or not. I've got a choice if I want a roof over my head.
Yeah.
And so let's say I was drinking, I got caught out, and then if the member of staff was to turn a blind eye, that would mean she's enabling me to do it. That's another angle to look at that.
I get that.
But at the same time, we're human. But at the same time, we're only human, and nobody wants to go and see someone else suffer. So it is that fine balance. And again, we make choices. Was it the wrong choice? Was it the right choice? Who the fuck am I to say yes or no?
I think what I forgot to state was we weren't recovery, as in recovery, rehabilitation. We were just there to try and police it.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, I ended up doing a lot of training in recovery because of that, off the back of that. But I wasn't there to help somebody through rehabilitation. So that was, I was there just to house people.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Expect them to do it by themselves.
Yeah.
And you can't do it by yourself. You need some support.
Do you know what? Well, no, because this is, I mean, like one of the reasons I ended up really going down that route was my life was so messy. I didn't, just the thought of trying to sort out the anxiety that created, the unmanageability that created, and just right, today's the day I'm going to sort it out. And then I just start thinking, where the fuck do I start? And bang, because I kept reaching out to veteran charities, but by the time that catches up with me, I was gone out there, I was moved again. So it's kind of my own fault, but I don't regret it, yes, one that I kind of part of me wishes I had the wife and kids and dog and all that, but then the other thing, it hasn't happened, so I can piss and moan about it, but I don't. I kind of look at my last 42 years as better than a qualification to go and help people. I've been around the block a couple of times. I've done all sorts of therapy, and I know I've got a lot to bring to the table, and I want to do that. I want to do that the rest of my life. I see the last 42 years absolutely has been my school, my training manual to get me to where I am now, and now I'm in a position to help people, and for that I'm grateful. My personal belief, I don't believe we can have regrets, because of all it would have been is one thing in my life be different, and I wouldn't be sat here now. I could be dead now.
Exactly.
I might have reached out and got help. Who knows?
Yeah. No, that is such a true statement in my eyes as well, that if I was to regret something, I wouldn't be sat here. I wouldn't have got to this point. I don't think I'd have got to this point any quicker, neither.
Yeah.
I think that our path is unraveled before we even walk down it. I'm not afraid to say that I am now very spiritual. I had a massive awakening in December, and it's been like quite nerve-wracking at times.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my word, what on earth is going on? But I now believe that, I'm on this journey for a reason, and it was already made for me. So don't regret what you do. Just keep going.
Well, this is it. I mean, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. There's things I'm not proud of, and part of this program I'm going through, like I said, I'll be making amends to some people, and I will. So there's not as many as I thought there would be when I go through it mentally. I've still got a lot of work to do there, but I will go and try and make amends, and it will be a case of me owning my whatever I've done, even if these people I still hold resentment towards. I'm just going to go and I want to go and sweep up my side of the street best I can. If they apologise for their part in it, that's fantastic, but I'm not after that. This is about me humbling my ego, and getting my side of the street clean and keeping it clean. And that's kind of the way I want to live now. A clean, honest life, no more ducking and diving. Just a straight down the line life where I can help people out. And I can say I'm happy for the first time. I'm excited about my future. I cannot remember the last time that happened. And again, I'm grateful I was an alcoholic, because that's what's given me this opportunity.
That's amazing. No, it really is amazing. I commend you for your honesty. And I think as well that if people have got to hold them negative experiences, memories, feelings that they have with what happened in their past with yourself, I think forgiveness is huge, because you can move on from that. And I just hope that they can do the same too.
And it's only the forgiving yourself. Like sometimes I've got to remember some of the stuff, the stupid, horrible stuff I've done. I was drunk, and although that never used to be recognised as an excuse, and it certainly isn't an excuse, but even in the eyes of the law now, it's recognised as an illness. And even if you're not an alcoholic and you're just going through a rough time in life, we all, through emotional minds, do some silly things. But again, it's done, so there's just no point dwelling on it. You feel shit about it, just don't do it again. If now you feel shit about it and you go and do it again but you don't have to keep doing that. You can learn from that. All right, I fucked up, I feel a bit stupid for doing that, or I feel like a bit of an a-hole, but you don't have to go and do that again. You can learn from that and just put it behind you and forgive you. Find a bit of self-forgiveness.
Yeah, sorry, I only laughed there because you said fucked up and then a-hole. I thought, oh.
Yeah, I noticed that. I didn't. Yeah, it's me trying my hardest.
That was brilliant. They do actually say, don't they, that the people that have got a potty mouth and swear a lot are more trustworthy.
I'll go with that.
I don't know if it's true or not, but I certainly have to really hold myself to stop swearing. You've heard me privately.
Yeah. I do love a good sentence enhancer. What can I say?
So, how would you present what low self-esteem is to you? What would you say?
Low self-esteem with me is lack of belief in yourself. I think in it. It's lack of belief. It's fear of not being able to handle something, and it's thinking you're not good enough. Thinking you're not good enough. And this is why I kind of banged on about all the other bits, because it's all one of the same and different. It's all sort of symbiotic. Every one of these aspects needs each other to grow, and we need to have a bit of self-compassion. That gives us confidence, and with confidence, it helps remove some of those insecurities. Having belief in yourself, loving yourself, having respect for yourself, all these things remove these insecurities. And with this new confidence, having personal boundaries, knowing how to communicate your personal boundaries to someone that hits it without being aggressive, without being shy about it. When you do that, it makes me feel like this, relying on someone else's humility. All these things, lower or remove the insecurities I personally feel. And obviously you might be a bit fearful having that first conversation about setting that boundary or doing this. And there's going to be a bit of fear there, because it's a growth, because we're now, every time we grow, we've got to keep going through them bits of fear, but it's good fear, and remembering just to go through that. And then with that will give you confidence, because you're going to realize whatever fear you're having, so is everyone else has been in your situation. You're not the only one doing it, and all these things you're panicking about, no one else is probably picking up on, and all these little stories in your head that could really go wrong probably bloody won't. And it is just go for it. What is the worst that can happen? Seriously, go for it. Break through that little fear. And when you start realizing this, your confidence will grow as a person. And it's as simple as that. It's like sort of doing this. I was quite nervous about doing this. I might come across very confident and cocky, but I don't know how many people are watching this at the minute or going to be watching this. I could be making a right tit of myself, but I'm kind of okay with that. Well, but do you know what? I'm okay with that. I might be, and if I do make a career tit of myself, I can maybe try and do it differently the next time. But again, it's just
don't you ever think like that.
But also the other thing I've done before I've done this, I haven't spent the last few days thinking about it. Every time it's in my mind, I block it out, because the more I think about it, then you get the anxiety, then you start to question yourself. So I've kind of just blocked it out, ping, keep blocking it out, and then bang, land and do it, and kind of hope for the best, because then you haven't got that time for the anxiety to build up.
So I've had a comment from a lovely lady called Nicola, and she says she can honestly relate to being told that she's rubbish for a long enough time to believe it herself. And another lady, Nat, has put it's a form of conditioning. So it's exactly what we touched upon, wasn't it? Before?
You know what? It is conditioning. If you imagine, it's no different really. This is the mental side of it, and the boxing side of it. The reason people shadow box is to repeat the same action over and over again, so it flips the subconscious mind. So you're doing it without thinking. Same as when you learn to drive and you can't remember the journey. You've done it so many times, you're not doing it. Your subconscious is. This is no difference, but just on an internal level. Once your brain hears something enough, whether you believe it at a conscious level or not, your fucking brain believes it. But the beauty about that is we're meant to be intelligent as humans, but the beauty is anything you learn, you can either unlearn or you can learn a new way. And it's the repetition. And again, this is where bringing it back to the conscious mind and the forefront of your mind comes in. And this is when you catch yourself when you're saying horrible things to yourself, or you hear that inner voice giving you all these bullshit scenarios. It's trying to override that inner voice, try and observe it, and it kind of shuts up. And that'll be my 2 tips now: override the inner voice and just catch yourself. And if you find yourself talking a bit shit to yourself, change that to talk nicely, as if you're talking to another human being.
Good advice.
That'll be my little tips. That's how I sort of grow in them areas.
No, that's really, really helpful. Just like to round it up, can you explain a bit more about inner child?
So inner child is, my inner child, cute little bugger. So my little kid, no safe person, no safe place. It was bullied, it was beaten. And and he didn't know how to express himself and everything else. And I hated that little child because I just remembered a little boy that was cruel to animals, hitting spat on his mum. And then the inner child work for me, what I've done, I go and I create like a calm place. I go to in meditation, and I physically go and see little Mikey, and I chat to him, and I tell him how proud I am, and I tell him how I love him, and I tell him he's important, and I tell him all the things I kind of wish I heard as a kid. I tell him he's clever, and I tell him, all these little things. And yeah, and that's it, and that's how I kind of connected with the little me, because the little me is still part of me. And I'll just become that safe person that he never had, which is, it sounds, when you say it out loud, it sounds mental, but that's just the practice of what it is.
So would you say that was your...
So just one more thing on that.
Sorry,
it's remembering some of our maybe undesired behaviours or reactions that we have. Again, go easy on yourself. These are learned for a reason. I learned for a reason to get angry quick as a child. It kept me safe. And obviously it got me, and it served me well in my life. But then it's got to my point, that same anger is now causing me problems, and there's no more welcome. And it's just remembering that everything you learn, every behavior you learn, you've learned that from somewhere. And maybe, the fact that you're in this group and you're listening to this, maybe now's a chance just to start observing some of those behaviors. A good little exercise to do with this is get a bit of paper, wherever the behaviors are. Let's use anger as an example, and go out today, Sunday, something happens, someone bangs into me, we're going for the shopping centre. Obviously, this is a fictional story, it's a wall in house arrest. And then I'd say, "Hey, you fucking idiot." Anyway, you go away, you write down what happened. Somebody bumped into me, how I reacted. I got verbally aggressive. Later on that night, when you're in a nice, calm, logical mind, you then write down how maybe you could have or should have reacted. And then what that does, it brings it to the conscious of your mind. And then by doing that enough, your actual behavior naturally changes because of that whole thing of repetition. Then before you know it, someone bumps into you and you're laughing it off, and then you float away and you're bloody unicorn, whoever it is. So.
Do you know what I think you would really enjoy reading, and I don't know whether you have or haven't before, but it's called The Chimp Paradox, The Mind Management. It's brilliant. Basically talks about our emotional part of our human being the chimp. We have our human brain, which is our logical thinking. We have the computer as well, which is our stored memories. And it's saying that the chimp will react, and it will, because it's emotional, it's 3 times more powerful than the human side. So exactly like what you've just said, I had road rage, come back and I'm like, why? Because I've had time to calm down. So they basically say, if you can learn to exercise your chimp, reward it and compromise, then you'll be able to feel a lot happier in life.
And then also what this does is called, it increases your window of tolerance. So it's lesson of 376. So you've got your window of tolerance there, and then with certain events we can either go hyper aroused or hypo aroused. The hypo is normally start isolating and sort of withdraw. The hyper is hyper vigilant and get a bit over the top, and it's just trying to expand, and all these little things will do that, expand your window of tolerance. So these little things like that bit of road rage and that, they won't affect you anymore, because if you remember, even if someone's in your face or giving you a load of shit, if you're upset, that's a you problem, not a them problem. Do you know what I mean? If we let it upset us, that's an us problem. If we can learn that there aren't any words, do you know what? And maybe with that self-compassion and a bit of compassion towards that person, because they got that pretty shit life to be like that. And then it's just, and then it's kind of just going through life a bit happier. I'm still very much master on the art of it, but I'm 1,000 times better than where I was.
That's amazing. No, it is. It really is amazing. I think definitely if we could look more into the inner child and maybe do another live on the inner child, maybe do an exercise, maybe let's do some meditation, talking to ourselves. That'd be amazing.
I'll be up for that. I mean, I'm trying to think, I haven't done mass amounts of inner child work, but I mean, for me, it's kind of, it is just connecting with it. It's with being a child, really, what you didn't have as a kid. And also it's so important because the way people go, parents and everything else, and just people in general, if you're bullied, I was bullied, so I become someone that bullied bullies. And that's you either become a bully, which in a way I did, I suppose, or you become the complete opposite. So like, as a parent, if you was treated one way, like you'll usually mimic that way, or you'll do the complete opposite. There's no middle ground as well. Not sure what my point is there, but I'm sure there is one.
No.
So.
That was about like, so for me that was almost like explaining that it's okay what you've experienced, because we can't change that, can we? But what we can do now is learn to live with that and to be respectful to ourselves. And for me, I know that the inner child is something that I need to work on, because it's almost like I need to say, no, it's all right, you're safe, you're okay, you've got this, you know, you don't need anyone's approval, you know, as long as you're being nice, you don't need to be horrible to people. And I need to tell that to me. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's quite good fun. I'm always in a good mood when I come out just playing with little Mikey. Sometimes I have a little boogie with him, you know, play sort of games in there. It sounds completely insane when you say it out loud, it really does, but I do, because this is where in my life and everyone else can become it. You become your own god. And everything in that little world you create in that meditation is completely yours. And unless you tell someone about it, no one will ever know. So you can be an absolute maniac in there, run around dressed as a unicorn, doing backflips. You do whatever you want in there. No one knows. I've let my secret, and I don't. But I mean, so that'd be a good one. I'd happily do that and kind of talk people. Maybe talk people through a bit of meditation there and try and help create a calm place, because that is a really good place to go to, set yourself up for the day. And you do feel it once, you know, and there's mirror work you can do as well. When we're doing this, when I find out, I'll have a look. I've got something. I used to have certain things on next to my mirror in treatment, and one was connecting with the inner child there, saying, like, looking myself in the eye and saying certain things to myself every morning for that most of the time I was in treatment, and it does. It has an impact. It really does.
That's amazing. That's really, really good. You know, when I did a live, I can't quite remember what we were talking about, but I basically said that if you write a letter to yourself, but you're writing it as if you're writing it to a friend, and then read it to yourself in the mirror and look at yourself, it's so powerful.
There's loads of stuff like that as well. There's some other thing there about connecting with inner child and using your left hand as well if you're right-handed, or vice versa. I'm not sure what that is, so I'm not going to try and explain that, but there's loads of exercises there for getting back in touch with the inner child, because I'm convinced when I'm doing it, because when I'm not in a good place, my right eye is always slightly more closed than my left eye, so I'm quietly convinced that my inner child is hidden my right eye. But when everything's okay, my eyes are kind of, it's a proper physical tell that I've noticed a few years back, and it's really weird. But so I always find myself doing my inner child work, looking into the wonky donkey eye that goes when I'm not happy. So
you've got a charming way with words. I absolutely love that. Oh, brilliant. So we are now 10 to anyway, but have you got any final words, any sort of suggestions, anybody that might be sort of at the start of their journey?
I'm a gobshite. I've always got a final word. Just literally, I found the key to this is like the two things I've said, that self-compassion. This is absolute key, I believe, is self-compassion and that inner voice work. You know, when you hear that inner voice going, stop it, try and observe it. If you try and observe it, it kind of stops. Or just, you know, even if you just, and it might sound silly to some, but even when you hear that inner voice going, it's even if you override it internally, saying to yourself, I love me, and just to stop that inner voice, and that done me dividends. And that I would say that would definitely be the two things. And then the self-compassion. When you notice yourself, call yourself a dick or whatever you call yourself because you're just mucked up, just remember, talk to you as if you talk to someone else or a small child. And kind of, again, that's kind of inner child work. Talk to yourself calmly and smoothly, and comfort yourself. Just comfort yourself.
Do you know, you've been, I don't know what that was, but you've been brilliant. I've noticed from the very beginning of talking at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but that's just you, and that's great. But you've really relaxed.
I nod me on, so I can slow down on request.
You have really slowed down. No, and it's good. But the thing is, we're all about inclusion. We're all about learning who is struggling with whatever they are struggling with, what particular issue it is. And the fact that you slowed down and you took it in your stride afterwards, you've got to commend yourself for that, because that was phenomenal. The fact that you've shared so much in just under an hour. and the struggles we had to get on here.
Yeah. What a set of groups to get over that one.
You've calmed me down as well, because you know my low self-esteem and insecurities are like, oh, I shouldn't do this because I can't. And yeah, but I need to stop talking to myself like that. But I just want to say thank you so much, because it's really difficult subjects to talk about: addiction, past history, you know, difficulties in life.
You know, sorry to jump in. Do you know what? I don't think it is. I went through the difficult times in treatment. I don't find it difficult to talk about it now, and I really don't. And this is where I hope I can help anybody, men and women, but certainly with the men, because whatever you've been through, there's nothing to be ashamed about. Nothing. Yeah, obviously you might not want to tell everyone about your deep and dirty secrets kind of thing, but always find someone. And everyone, personal boundaries. Everyone doesn't need to know your shit. You know, find that one or two people you really can confide in, and you can talk to about anything, and keep that business to them. Yes, talk to other people to reach out, but try and have them, you know, that close couple of people that you can really reach out to, whether it's a professional or anything. You know, if you don't know where to start, obviously you can get links from Amy and that through this group here, which is amazing. But also don't forget your doctor's that central point. That is, even when I was complete shit, my one motto in life is don't lie. I did lie to my doctor in the end about my drinking, but that's the one person you should always tell the truth to, and that is like the one. If you're anywhere else, don't know where to go, bring out your bloody doctor, and that they will help and hopefully point you in the right direction.
Smashed it.
But do not be scared to reach out.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mike. You might see the comments, or you will see the comments, and if there's anybody that's got anything to ask, I'm sure you'll be happy to chip in and answer those questions and whatnot. So
yeah, no problem at all.
Thank you so much, honestly. Thanks for persevering with me. I thought, no, obviously it's not meant to be, but no, it is. Well, you enjoy yourself, Mike. This is going to be on Anyway Reach to Speak Out, so people will be able to watch it back. And I will now go off and title it. And yes, we can finally say we are pros at Zoom.
I won't go that far yet. I'll be too scared to look at this back personally. I hate seeing myself and hearing myself talk still.
You'll find that you will be able to do that.
Yeah.
You will. I promise you, because I felt like that a couple of weeks ago, and I watched a live back of mine, and I was like, okay, cringe,
you know
but okay.
Sorry, I just want to touch on one more thing that just brought up as well. We used to do you used to get in treatment twice a week, and then once every 3 weeks. You'd have your goals, and you'd have what's called process, which basically turned into like peer assassination. And on there, what I found when I first went into treatment is people could rip the shit out of me verbally about all my defaults. Didn't bother me in the slightest. But when it comes to getting compliments, seriously cringeworthy. And I think a lot of us go through that as well. And again, this boils back down to self-compassion being essential. I'm getting better. Still a lot of bloody work to do, but I'm getting better at it.
Well, you take the compliment, and well done. Yeah,
thank you.
Do that. Anyway, my love, we will end there. You are and have been Mike Kodac's moment. And we will definitely see you again. So thank you so much, darling.
Thanks for letting me say more thing.
And you'll be back. You'll be back. You look after yourself, darling. I'll speak to you.
You too, sweet.
Bye,
Take care, everybody.
Bye, love.
Much love.
Bye-bye.